Square Enix has over the last few years made 2 mobile games. That's if we don't count the game that was cancelled years back. We have Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, released in 2013, and Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, released in 2020. And with Missing Link being confirmed to release next year in 2024. By the way, yeah, I'm writing this script the day that the trailer came out for Missing Link, but instead of me analyzing the guts out of it with my little spyglass or whatever, I'll instead be talking about why I think Square has been taking the mobile route with their games in the past few years. However, let's take it back to the era of games like Birth by Sleep, or Recoded, or 315 Over 2 Days, or hell, even the first version of Dream Drop Distance. Back then, things were a lot different, and the first major difference back then compared to now were the phones. Keep in mind, during this time, phones like the Samsung Galaxy S3 and the S4 were considered new phones, and on the iPhone side, you had the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S. Those phones are funny for today's standards, to say the least, and my guess is that they, even at the time they were new, simply did not have the power to run a phone Kingdom Hearts game, even though we did get Kingdom Hearts Union Cross a bit later in 2013. So the first reason has to be hardware limitations. The second reason is that at least back then, Square had a lot more console options for their releases than it is the case today. If we go as far back as the original Chain of Memories, it was released on the Game Boy Advance back in 2004. And before you ask, yeah, I was born literally playing the game with the Game Boy Advance in my hands trying to beat the Riku replica. There's some information for you. And while 358 Over 2 Days and Recoded, which was fun fact supposed to be the first Kingdom Hearts mobile game, were released on the Nintendo DS, PSP was also a thing during this time, in the late 2000s. In 2010, we got Birth by Sleep for the PSP. Sadly, I got a PSP Go the next year, which means that there was no playing this game for 7-year-old me. Since the game was only available on the UMD drives, and if you were around back then, you might remember that the PSP Go never had a UMD drive. Getting back on track though, we fast forward another 2 years when we get to the first version of Dream Drop Distance for the Nintendo 3DS. This is the last game of quote-unquote the Kingdom Hearts handheld era, if you will, since after that we started getting the HD remixes and the rest is pretty much gaming history. And if we compare that to nowadays, there are barely any handheld consoles releasing, and the only consoles we get are the major home consoles like the current gen PS5 or Xbox Series X and S. And the only portable / handheld options we have, assuming that Square don't go the Steam Deck route, are the Nintendo Switch and our smartphones. That's literally it. There is also the cost factor of making such games. Back in the day, on those handheld consoles, games were still made only as physical copies, with the Nintendo having cartridges and PSP having UMD drives. Today, the games are just downloaded from the Play Store or the App Store, which of course cuts the cost of making them tremendously. And now, thanks to the 3 reasons I just mentioned, you know why Kingdom Hearts is gravitating towards phones. And I definitely know why some people are mad about it. And I can agree to an extent. We are used to these games being a console experience, but the positive side is that the spin-offs are now more portable than ever. And if you don't want to play those games but want the story, you can always watch the cutscenes on YouTube, just like I did for Union Cross and Dark Road. However, I still think I will be giving Missing Link a shot when it releases. And hey, let's hope that these games will at some point be remade or at least ported to the consoles or PCs. With that said, I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, leave a like and consider subscribing to my YouTube. It helps out a ton, and until the next video or stream, bye bye.